Ash-colored sky. The rain had been falling non-stop for 3 days. The sky above the city was heavy like lead, ash-colored. Streetlights were turning on early, their yellow glow casting trembling reflections on the wet asphalt. Ela stood by the window, staring outside. Her hands rested on the cold glass, her breath fogging it up. She was 32 years old, yet she felt much older. Ela had lived in the same apartment since childhood, on the 5th floor. Her mother had died 15 years ago. Her father had moved away, and her siblings were scattered across other cities. The apartment was still the same: faded floral wallpaper on the walls, old parquet floors, the enamel pot set in the kitchen that her mother used to cook with. The only thing that had changed was Ela's loneliness. That day, a letter arrived by mail, a thick, brown envelope. Her name was written on it in handwriting. There was no stamp, no postmark. It was as if someone had left it at the building entrance and walked away. Inside the envelope was a single sheet of paper, an old map. It showed the city as it was in the 1980s. Some streets were marked in pencil, forming a route. The route ended at an abandoned factory site where Ela had played as a child. Ela stared at the map for a long time. There was no signature, but in the corner of the lines was a small symbol, exactly like the silver earring her mother used to wear when she was young. Ela's heart began to race. When her mother died, those earrings had disappeared. Ela had searched for them for years, but never found them. She couldn't sleep that night. Early in the morning, she put on her old raincoat, slipped the map into her pocket, and went outside. The rain was still falling, but more lightly, more quietly. The city had not yet woken up. Ela began to follow the route on the map. The first stop was the old bus stop where she used to play hide-and-seek with her friends as a child. There, at the base of a rusted metal pole, she found a small metal box. Inside was a cassette tape. Her Walkman still worked. Ela put on the headphones. Her mother's voice filled her ears. "My dear Ela, if you're listening to this, I'm probably already gone. I'm sorry. Some things are meant to be lived rather than explained. This route is for you to find the things I hid in my youth. At every stop, you'll find a piece. In the end, they will all come together. Don't be afraid. You're not alone." Ela's eyes filled with tears. That voice she hadn't heard in years felt warm, as if it were coming from the next room. The second stop was the old movie theater. The building had been demolished and turned into a parking lot, but the bench marked on the map was still there. Under the bench, another box. Inside was an old photo album. Ela turned the pages. Her mother at 20, long-haired, smiling. Next to her, Ela as a baby. But on the last pages of the album were people she didn't recognize. A young man holding her mother. Ela had never seen him before. The third stop was by the river. The bridge had been renovated, but the old plaques on the railings remained. There, Ela found a bottle. Inside was a tightly rolled letter. Her mother had written it. That man's name was Mert. He was a friend from university. We fell deeply in love, but my family opposed it, and I was afraid. I ran away. When you were born, Mert had gone abroad. I never told you about him because I didn't want you to feel guilty toward the man you called your father. But your real father was Mert. I wanted to leave those earrings to you, but I was afraid. I hid them. Forgive me." Ela collapsed to her knees. The rain soaked her face, but it was impossible to tell it apart from her tears. The man she had thought was her father was actually her stepfather. Her mother had kept a secret from her. The fourth and final stop was the abandoned factory. The door was chained, but the chain was rusted and broke easily. Inside, it was dark and damp. Ela turned on her phone's flashlight and found the final mark on the map, beneath an old machine. There was a large metal chest there. The key was inside the letter. She opened the chest. Inside were all of her mother's belongings from her youth. Diaries, letters, photographs, and yes, the silver earrings. But at the very bottom was another envelope. On it was written, "For Mert." Hila didn't open it. She didn't yet feel strong enough to carry her mother's secret. When she stepped outside, the rain had stopped. The sky was still ash-colored, but a thin break had appeared at the horizon. Hila cradled the chest in her arms and began walking home. The loneliness was still there, but it felt different now, as if someone had been waiting beside her for a long time. When she reached her building, a man was standing in front of the door. In his 50s, with gray hair, an old Walkman in his pocket of his raincoat. Hila stopped. The man smiled. "Hello, Hila," he said softly. "Your mother told me you would come today, many years ago." Hila's hands trembled. She set the chest down on the ground. The man stepped closer, slowly. "I'm Mert." Hila began to cry. This time, the tears were not rain, just her. Mert gently touched Hila's shoulder, as if she were something fragile. "Shall we go inside?" he asked. His voice trembled slightly, heavy with years of longing. Hila nodded, cradled the chest again, and opened the door. The apartment still smelled the same. Old furniture, a hint of dampness, and the lavender soap her mother loved. They moved into the living room. Hila placed the chest on the coffee table while Mert sat in the armchair by the window. Outside, the city lights were slowly turning on. Hila made tea, using her mother's old teapot. She needed to keep her hands busy, otherwise it felt as if her heart might stop from beating so hard. When they began drinking their tea, silence settled in at first. Then Mert spoke. "When I met your mother, we were both at university, architecture faculty, same class. She actually loved literature, but her family pushed her into architecture. I, on the other hand, was in love with drawing. Love at first sight, you know how it is." Hila listened, trying to imagine her mother in her youth, the long-haired, free-spirited girl from the photographs. "We used to wander around the city together," Mert continued. "We'd sit by the river for hours. She would read poetry and I would sketch. Then her family found out. 'What are you doing with a poor student?' they said. Your mother got scared and I couldn't insist. I won a scholarship abroad and left. As I was leaving, she said, 'Wait for me,' but when I came back, everything had changed." Hila asked, "Did you know she was pregnant with me?" Mert lowered his head. "No. By the time I found out, you had already been born. Your mother wrote me a letter. I'm married now. Ayla's father is a good man. Don't interfere with our lives." It hurt, but I understood. She was thinking about your happiness. Hila took one of the diaries from the chest, opened its yellowed pages, and handed it to Mert. "Read this," she said. Mert read quietly. "Today, I watched Hila while she was sleeping. Her eyes look like Mert's. I wish I could tell her, but I'm afraid. She deserves a good life, not one full of secrets." Mert's eyes filled with tears. "She regretted it," he said. "In her later years, she kept sending me letters, your photos, your report cards. I kept them all." They talked through the night. Mert told her about his life abroad, working in Paris, then moving to New York. His name was on major projects, bridges, museums, but he had never truly been happy. He said, "There was always a void. It was you." Hila laughed for the first time that night. "I felt a void too. I thought it was loneliness. Turns out it was a missing piece." By morning, they were both exhausted, but lighter. Mert stood up. "I should go, let you rest," he said, "but I'll come again tomorrow if you'll let me." "Come, don't go anymore." Days passed like this. Mert rented an old apartment in the city nearby. They met every evening. Sometimes they cooked together. Hila discovered that Mert was a very good cook. Sometimes they went to old places, the cinema parking lot, the river bridge, the factory grounds. The factory was gone now, replaced by a park. They sat there and talked. One day, Hila asked, "Did you never have another child?" Mert replied, "I couldn't. When you exist, there can be no another. After my divorce, I stayed alone. Ila's life was slowly changing. She still worked, she was a graphic designer working from home, but now when she looked out the window, she smiled. She didn't tell her friends right away. She wanted the secret to remain just hers a little longer. One evening, Mert said, "I want to show you something." They got into his car, an old model but well-maintained. They drove out of the city toward the hills. There was a small house there, newly bought by Mert. He said, "I'm restoring it. Would you like to live here together someday? Slowly, without a rush." Illa was surprised. The house was beautiful, wooden with large windows overlooking the forest. Inside, Mert showed her his sketches. "This was your mother's dream, a house like this." Illa touched the walls. "Yes," she said. She wrote about it in her diaries. They didn't return home that night. They stayed in the house, watching the stars. For the first time, Illa felt whole. Months passed. Illa decided to introduce Mert to her friends. She organized a small dinner. Everyone was surprised, of course. "Your father? But your father—" Illa explained briefly. Everyone was understanding. One day, a new envelope arrived in the mail. This time, it was from Mert. Inside was her mother's final letter. "If you've met Illa, tell her this. I've forgiven myself. All that matters is that she is happy." Mert read the letter to Illa. They both cried, but this time from happiness. Summer arrived. The sky was deep blue now. Illa and Mert were walking by the river. Illa took Mert's hand. "Dad," she said for the first time. Mert stopped and embraced his daughter. "My daughter." Life, though delayed, was finally complete. The ash-colored sky had long been forgotten. In its place stretched an endless blue. And the story, in truth, was only just beginning.